Hi, and welcome to this series where I'll be trying to recreate a 18th century pirate suit. I decided to make a cosplay of the purple suit worn by Blackbeard in Our Flag Means Death. This is meant for cosplay, but I won't be recreating the show exactly. You see, the one he uses in the show is more historically inspired, so I thought it would be fun to make a suit that was more historically accurate. Spoiler warning, it did not. My rules for this project was to use historical patterns to get the right silhouette, but I'll be trying to use the same fabrics and decorations where I can find them and afford it. And as the title reveals, today we'll be making the shirt. The only scene where he's not wearing his jacket is a romantically lit scene towards the end of the episode. Steed here is wearing a scarf thing in matching material to his shirt, so we can establish that his shirt is light grey silver colour. While we can only see the colour on Ed's shirt in the daytime scenes, it looks to be off-white compared to the white lace, but in the nighttime scene it looks golden. And probably because of how beautifully it reflects the moonlight, these shirts are of course made of silk satin. They're also not using more fabric than what is strictly necessary. The sleeves look poofy, but you can see that there isn't that much fabric in them. There also isn't any bunching of the fabric under the waistcoat. I like finding little details like this. They probably hoped no one would see them trying to save money on fabric, but they still chose to use the expensive material for this scene for the aesthetic. There is a shoulder seam on the shirt. Most of the shirts worn by Steed in this season has a back panel. That isn't common practice yet, so I will not be copying that. There is a stiff white and silvery lace at the cuffs and a different one sewn along the split of the front. He also has just a strip of lace that he wears as a tie. The collar is tall and there is no visible closures. I wasn't able to find any of these laces, so I ended up just using something from my stash. I looked at a few different options for my fabric and ended up with this golden mulberry silk satin, which confuses me because I thought mulberry were necessary in all silk making, but it does feel and look as expensive as it was. The major downside to this fabric is that it's flimsy as f, and if you as much as breathe in its direction, it flies to the other side of the room. It also changes colour if you get it wet and cannot be washed. I'm also not able to iron out all of the wrinkles it came with. First, I measured out the main square that will be the body. Okay, let's see how much fabric we have left. 62. Yes! Then I marked my neckline. It's supposed to be 40 centimeters wide so that you have more to gather, but I made it a few centimeters shorter. I made sure that I had enough fabric to droop off my shoulders with about 5 centimeters. The front opening asked for 20 centimeters, but because I hoped to be able to wear this shirt with other clothes, I made it only as big as I needed to get my head through. This is perfect for my normal clothes, but very impractical in cosplay, and I might redo it later. After cutting open my markings, I roll and fell down the fabric on each side of the split. The bottom part is sewn with a buttonhole stitch and secured with a button bar tack. I was careful to only pick up a single thread of the silk, but every stitch you make in this fabric is very visible. And not even my pirate shirt is straight. How does this even happen? To each side of the neck slash, I insert a little neck gusset. I've seen people use a square one like this, or 2 triangles. It is actually less fiddly to use the triangles. You'll cover this edge up with the colour anyway, but it looks pretty. They are 7 by 7 centimeters and are sewn with a back stitch, and the other side was felled down with a whip stitch. The back and front were gathered up to fit my colour. The colour will be 10 centimeters high and is a simple square of silk. The ends are sewn up and it is sewn to the neck opening. Then I attach my arm gusset to my arms. They are 13 by 13 centimeters. These seams won't be seeing as much wear, so here I'm using a quick running backstitch. I left a gap at the bottom of my cuff and stitched up the rest of my sleeve. This fabric also didn't like to be pinned, making the felling a bit slow. Because all my stitching is so visible, I fell the seams of the sleeve to one side instead of either. It's good practice to add reinforcement in the places that will see the most wear, but as this is a shirt only for special occasions that cannot be washed, I didn't see the point of adding them. It's important to only use silk thread on silk fabrics, other threads will leave permanent marks, which is why I often end up reusing my gathering threads. The sleeve end is gathered up and I prep the cuffs. There is a distinct lack of interfacing in this shirt, the reason being I didn't feel like it needed any, and I like the soft flowy look. It's also very comfortable this way. Because this is such a flimsy fabric, it doesn't always end up laying the way you wanted, but the best property of silk is that almost no matter how bad you sew it, it will always look fabulous. At least that's what I'm saying to myself as I sew. The sleeve is gathered down to 1/3 of its width, and I'm being careful to make even stitches as these gathers are the main attraction. My arm opening is 27 cm long and the sleeve is backstitched in. When it comes to the gathers, I stitched over them back and forth, first to keep them in place and then to secure them in. I didn't want a visible seam around the sleeve, so I folded the raw edge in on itself and stitched through it. My shirt is a bit short, therefore I had no use for the side splits. The hem was rolled up and whipped down. If there are buttons on this shirt, they are probably metal. Just because costuming dramas usually do that, I ended up choosing these that match the fabric best and made buttonholes on opposite sides of the cuffs. Same as today, they would use cufflinks for fancier shirts and the normal buttoning method for less fancy shirts. Real historical patterns suggest you use thread buttons or ribbon to close the collar. I made mine out of thread. I live in a European country where 18th century fashion is still relevant, and we use these types of shirts for our national costumes. They are closed with brooches, and by avoiding buttonholes at the collar I might be able to use it for that later. The buttons were sewed together, and that would finish the shirt, if it hadn't been for all of this lace. I hoped that I would find a way to wear it that didn't require me to stitch it on, but it did. This was gathered up, dyed with tea and layered to create a lacy caterpillar. I stitched this loosely to the front because I wanted it to be easy to remove again. This made the front so heavy that I had to add more ties to keep it taut. And there we go. I made removable lace cuffs that don't match the shirt, and they're kinda annoying, so I will probably sew the lace directly to the jacket instead. Thank you for following along, and best of luck with your own projects. Until next time.